Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. It means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. Hope your work week is off to a good start. I got a feeling it is, as the Tigers are headed to Omaha for the 20th time. We are talking about it. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We'll chat with Koki Riley in 30 minutes. Usually Koki's with us on Wednesdays. He's traveling on Wednesday. Good day to get him on, talk about the weekend that was, so we'll do that at the bottom of the hour. There's one more super regional matchup to go. We will certainly preview it. I want to talk about the other 6 that have completed. Are the Saints interested in a perennial Pro Bowler? We'll talk about that in the bottom of hour number 2. Plenty to do. Let's kickstart things the way we do every day. Our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
A successful weekend for LSU baseball. I don't know if on Friday I could have forecasted exactly what that looked like. To an extent, we did. We talked about some things that certainly shone through. West Virginia's bullpen really struggled. West Virginia's defense really struggled. But LSU's aces weren't on top of their game. And the offense really just carried the weekend with a little bit of help from West Virginia. And ultimately, LSU got out of the Super Regional with a fairly stress-free pair of victories. You win the game back on Saturday by a final score of 16-9. You scored a total of 16 runs in the 4th, 5th, and 6th innings to completely put things out of reach. And then on Sunday, after a lengthy delay, that was very fitting, I guess, for this LSU baseball season, you come out and hang 6 early on. It looked like the champagne was on ice. And then West Virginia hung around. They were tough. They were scrappy. I don't think they were very good, but they were tough. They were scrappy. They tried to hang on. And then ultimately LSU was just too much, and the dam broke in the 7th inning. I thought ultimately this Super Regional came to its head with one decision that Steve Saban's made on Saturday. And I thought it was because of the work that LSU had done over the course of 3.5 months. The Tigers led 3-1 in the game on Saturday. Cade Anderson was going along pretty nicely, and LSU got the 3 runs in the 4th inning. And ultimately, the decision was made to take Griffin Kern out of the ballgame. He had worked 4 innings. Steve Saban's talked about this after the game on Saturday, said he had pitched twice last weekend. It was hot. We didn't like his command. The velocity was down a couple miles per hour. We just thought he was out of gas. He used that exact term, out of gas. And at that point, Steve Saban's in a 3-1 game in the 5th inning looked at his pitching staff and said, we cannot win this game. We have to save all of our pitchers for the next 2 games. Because Cade Anderson's rolling, and we're already down 2 runs, and we're not going to go to our guys that have been our guys all year. The guys that have been his guys all year are Chase Meyer and Reese Passenger. They're the guys we saw yesterday. He didn't do that. He went to J.J. Glasscock, who has thrown 6 innings all year. And J.J. Glasscock immediately walked the first 2 guys he saw on 9 pitches. He threw 8 balls and 1 strike. He was lifted from the game, bang, home run, and the floodgates open. LSU scores 7 runs in the 5th. Cole Furman was next after Glasscock. Again, another guy that LSU, that West Virginia has not gone to really all year. 6 2/3 pitched on the season. He didn't get it out. Home run, walk, hit by pitch, he's out. And Steve Saban's waved a white flag on Saturday in a 2-run game because Cade Anderson has been that dominant all year. Now, he wasn't, because West Virginia came back and they scored 9 runs in the game. Let me paint you this picture. You saw Chase Meyer come in the game last night. He goes 4 innings and gave up 1 earned run. If instead of waving a white flag and basically forfeiting a 3-1 game in the 5th inning on Saturday, if he goes to Chase Meyer and gets that exact outing, West Virginia might win that game. I think he made a brutally bad decision on Saturday, and I think it cost him the rest of the weekend. West Virginia's staff was tired, apparently sick. The word is that Jack Kartsanis was sick, and that's why he couldn't throw on Saturday, and he was worked really hard on Sunday. But you look at that West Virginia staff, and they've just been overworked. And you saw that manifest itself when the bullpen came in 2 games. And LSU in 2 games scored 15 runs that reached base via the free pass, whether that was a walk, a hit by pitch, or an error. There was a ton of charity by this West Virginia team, and LSU capitalized on it at every turn. We spoke about this on Saturday, that West Virginia generally relies on stringing hits together and manufacturing runs. They don't hit a lot of home runs. And you saw them push across that first run on Saturday in the 2nd inning by getting a couple of hits and then bunting the runner over and then getting the fly ball. And they're just manufacturing, and they get 1. And LSU hits 2 grand slams and a 3-run homer. That's 11 runs on 3 swings for LSU using power and some help from a West Virginia staff that was not in the strike zone. But I thought it was a very balanced offensive effort from LSU. Derek Curiel obviously was sensational. He was not retired on Saturday. Then he comes back in the leadoff spot on Sunday and pumps a double into the gap to get things started, scored the first run of the game. He was 4 for 7 with 3 walks for the weekend. That's 7 times reaching base in 2 games. Stephen Milam remains sizzling hot. This guy hit 200 in league play. He comes out in the regional, was great. Comes out in the super, reached base 7 times. 3 for 7, 4 walks, and the big swing that got the box rocking on Sunday night. The bases were loaded, and Buzz and I were talking about this with Chris Blair on the broadcast. We're going, okay, you've got a pitcher in Kartsanis that is not in the strike zone. He's struggling with command. He's spraying the ball everywhere. He's struggling to throw a breaking ball. Just sit on a fastball that's over the heart of the plate and do damage. And he got the count to 2-0, and he got a ball up and on the inner third, and he just ripped it down the line. That thing must have left the bat at 110 miles an hour. It was sizzling down the line. The first baseman couldn't even get his glove up in time to get there. Milam struggled all year, really, and he said that yesterday after the game, I didn't have the year to help my teammates as much as I wanted to. But he's doing it now. He did it in the postseason in Chapel Hill. He did it in 2 weeks at the box, got on base 7 times over the weekend. Jared Jones was 4 for 8 on the weekend with a walk. Luis Hernandez scored 3 times. Chris Stanfield had 3 walks, 4 RBIs, and a big hit. That was a massive play in the game because it felt like on Sunday that LSU jumped out to that lead, and you're like, okay, it's 6-0. You're going to put this thing on ice. No big deal. Ianson's on the mound. He struck out the first 4 guys he sees. He's cruising. No worries at all. Well, then West Virginia hits the 2 home runs off of Ianson, who had only given up 4 all year entering that game. He gives up 2 in 1 inning in the 4th. Then you give up a run in the 5th when he lost his command a little bit, and it's 6-4. And LSU's offense is not doing a lot against Meyer, and it just kind of feels like there's a little bit of malaise, and now Ianson's out of the game, and you're going to the bullpen, and that's kind of the question mark of the team, and this could get a little bit hairy. But you get some help because Meyer ran out of gas, and he put 3 guys on base. And then one of the coolest moments of the entire Super Regional, Mississippi State. Why did I say that? West Virginia goes to the bullpen for Reese Bassinger. That's kind of their guy. He's a 3/4 sinker ball guy out of the bullpen. And you can very clearly see, based on context clues, that Jay Johnson gave Chris Stanfield a plan. They were going to shift 3 defenders to the left side of second base, vacate the entire right side. They're going to pitch you away. That's what Bassinger does. Hit the ball the other way, drive it through. And Chris Stanfield got a 1-0 pitch and pumped it on the ground into right field, and on the way to first base, he is pointing at Jay Johnson, and Jay Johnson, who is generally pretty reserved in the dugout during games, came 20 feet out of the dugout, pointing at Stanfield and pumping his fist. Like, they very clearly had an exact plan of what to do in that at-bat, and Stanfield executed it to perfection. That brings in 2 runs, keeps the merry-go-round going, and LSU delivers the knockout blow. It was awesome stuff, and it was a really contribution from just about everybody. Brown comes up a little bit later and hits a titanic home run off the batter's eye in center. He drove in 4 runs on the weekend. Josh Pearson drove in 4 runs on the grand slam on Saturday. LSU's offense, as really it has done most of the season at Alec Box Stadium, really carried the day. I thought they hit the ball hard. I thought they executed offensively. I did think West Virginia had a bad pitching staff, and that's not going to be the case on Saturday when you play Arkansas in Charles Schwab Field. You're going to have to be a lot better than you were this weekend. But this weekend, against a bad staff, against a tired staff, in a ballpark that you feel very comfortable playing offense in, I thought LSU carried itself on the offensive side of things. 16 runs on Saturday, 12 runs on Sunday, and that's going to be an offense that feels a lot of confidence when they take the field in Omaha. Zach Root's really good. That's who you're going to see on Saturday. We think it's going to be Saturday night, but today is not about Saturday. Today is about what LSU did over the weekend. Winning 2 weekends at home is not easy. And you saw just team after team after team get beat, whether it's Texas going out on the second day of the tournament, whether it's North Carolina winning 18-2 on Friday and then come back and losing 2 games to Arizona, whether it's Auburn getting beat in extra innings by Coastal Carolina, getting swept off its own field, whether it's Georgia blowing a lead in the regional. Like, teams are dangerous this time of year, and just about everybody in the country is pretty susceptible to a bad weekend. I don't see a juggernaut out there, and LSU hasn't been a juggernaut, but in that stadium, they just haven't lost. And this is one of 2 teams joining the 2018 team that have not lost a weekend at home in the entirety of the regular and postseason. LSU never lost a home weekend this year at the Box. 2018 they did it. This year they did it. Every other team stumbled, and this team did not. They deserve a ton of credit. And for LSU as a program, that is now 20 trips to Omaha in 40 years. 20 trips in 40 years. Half the time LSU is getting to the College World Series. We take it for granted a little bit, and I understand that there's an incredible amount of passion, and that's great. But sometimes you need to just pause for a brief second and go, that's pretty awesome. And what LSU did offensively over the last 2 days was pretty awesome. And for LSU to put itself in position over the course of 55 games in the SEC tournament to play at home, you knew that you were going to get that home field advantage. You knew your offense was going to be able to play in that ballpark. You knew the crowd was going to be there to pick you up. And you knew that you were going to face a team that's down the bracket a little bit. You got a good draw in the regional, took care of your business. You got a good draw in the super. Clemson goes down. West Virginia comes in here. Not a great team. You take care of them, and now you're headed up to Omaha to go try to fight for an 8th national championship in program history. Great weekend for LSU, especially on the offensive side. There are things we need to talk about as far as the pitching goes. Is there an issue with Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson? What about Chase Shores? Cooper Williams was fantastic. Cowan and Evans didn't pitch. I want to talk about the pitching side of things, and we'll do that when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. It is storm season. Those are inevitable in this part of the world. And when those storms show up, that's not the time to look on the radar and turn on the Weather Channel and then go, oh, what's my insurance policy say? By that point, they're going to have a moratorium on new coverage. You're not going to be able to change things. Right now is the time to evaluate your property insurance to make sure that you're prepared for a storm. Whether that's building valuations, whether that's making sure that you're not going to pay co-insurance penalties, whether that's business interruption limits, wind and hail deductibles, named storm deductibles, whatever the case may be, make sure it's all right. Jonathan Carver and his team at the Highland Insurance Group, they specialize in that. They're experts when it comes to policy form. They're going to make sure that your premium is fair. They're going to shop your coverage with all the markets that they've got at their disposal as an independent broker. But the most important thing is making sure your coverage is properly done. And that's what they're going to do at the Highland Insurance Group. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
shout out to the folks at GoFlow IV Spa. They're going to be bringing you our coverage from Omaha, Nebraska. I am leaving on a jet plane Thursday. I'll be headed up there, so I'll be out on Thursday's show, but I will be broadcasting from the Ameristar in Council Bluff, Iowa on Friday. Very much looking forward to that. I'll also have a pregame show on Saturday. We'll get the first pitch time, and then we'll set all those details up as the week moves forward. But if you were making the trip up to Omaha, looking for a place to stay, potentially you can check in on the Ameristar. And if you'd like to come see us on Friday and or Saturday, they've got a great sports book there in the Ameristar, great casino, and fantastic dining options as well. Very much looking forward to hanging out there. As long as LSU hangs around, I'll be there. So shout out to the folks at GoFlow IV Spa. We'll be telling you more about them as the week moves on. And I'll be up at the Ameristar in Council Bluffs, Iowa, just across the river from Charles Schwab Stadium, but it's only like 5 miles. So it's going to be an awesome time. Very much looking forward to it. LSU's two aces were not at their best over the weekend. Cade Anderson gutted through 7 innings in the sweltering South Louisiana heat. Gave up 9 hits and 7 runs, 6 earned. I wrote a column about this on LouisianaSports.net on Sunday morning because it struck me. He was very noticeably agitated in the post-game presser. Like, LSU had just won a super regional game by 7 runs. He had just pitched 7 innings, and he was just ticked off. And I asked him a question. I said, you started 10 games at the box this year, and LSU went 10-0 in those games. What does that mean to you? And he basically dismissed it and was like, yeah, great team, can trust those guys, awesome, and just kind of groused and sat back in his chair. Like, he was not happy at all with his performance. And look, it wasn't his best work, but he did everything LSU needed him to do. He ate up 7 innings. He struck out 7. Yes, he gave up 6 earned runs. That was a season high that he had allowed. But at one point, the score was 10-1 when he was out there. And he was sitting on the bench for 47 minutes at one point while LSU rallied. Just hard to stay in a rhythm like that. The good news is, for me, the velocity was up the entire time. I didn't think his command completely suffered. I mean, 2 walks is not the end of the world in 7 innings. He took that comebacker off the arm. I thought that might be a huge issue. It didn't turn out to be much of an issue at all. I thought West Virginia battled. I thought they did a really good job of plate discipline. They didn't extend very much. They took a lot of pitches, and they battled and battled and battled. And for Anderson to battle right back and to get you through 7 innings, I thought was a good thing. Yeah, he gave up a lot of hits. There was some hard contact. I get it. That's going to happen. I don't think it's any cause for sounding the alarm. I think that Cade Anderson did a nice job on Saturday. Same thing goes for Ianson. On Saturday, the first hitter of the game, is it Guzman? Yeah, Guzman battled Anderson, wouldn't strike out. And Steve Sabins, after the game, said that he thought that was kind of a tone setter for the game on Saturday. On Sunday, quite the opposite. Ianson comes out and literally strikes out the first 4 guys he faces on basically the same pitch, that slider that bounced. Luis Hernandez had to throw down to first base all 4 times on those strikeouts. And I'm looking at that going, man, he's locked in. He's going to be dominant. And the second time through the lineup, West Virginia just started to see it a little bit better. And I thought the first home run he gave up was on a pretty good pitch. I know y'all get tired of me saying that when guys, I said it with Zach Cowan in College Station, give him a home run, it's not a good pitch. Well, that's results driven. I'm talking about process driven here, and you have to throw it over the plate. You can't throw it 6 feet outside. Yeah, you can't hit it, but you're gonna walk everybody. You have to throw strikes. And Ianson threw a ball that was down, and I just thought it was a really good swing to drive it out of the ballpark. The second home run was on a breaking ball that just sat in the honey hole. I mean, it was just a bad pitch. And Ianson just hasn't done that very much. I mentioned this. He had given up 4 home runs all season and gave up 2 in 1 inning. He gave up 3 earned runs in May, all of May. And he gave up 4 earned runs in the game on Saturday. So it wasn't his best effort, but again, the velocity was good. I'm not concerned with the workload for these guys. You could make the case, and I don't know how Ianson felt. I don't know what the testing results said. I'm not sure about any of that stuff. I just know that sometimes when guys pitch twice in a weekend as starters, the next weekend is not as good. You can go right up to Knoxville, Fayetteville over the weekend, and Liam Doyle closed out the regional on Monday, 2 1/3 innings, running all over the place like a crazy man, just wild outing. And then he comes back out in game 2 and just didn't have it. He didn't have his command. He got knocked around by Arkansas. He didn't last very long. Tony Vitello looked at him and said, that's not him. You got to come out. I go back to 2021. Landon Marceau was LSU's ace that year, and the Tigers got into the loser's bracket immediately in that Eugene regional, but they battled all the way back to Monday, got a lead late on Monday, and they brought Landon Marceau in to close that game in Eugene to win the regional on Monday. They went to Knoxville the next week for the Super. It was Paul Maneri's last weekend. They threw Mikhail Hilliard in the first game, but they threw Landon Marceau in the second game, and he just didn't have his stuff. I don't know that that's the case with Anthony Ianson, even though he pitched twice last week, because I felt like the velocity was pretty good, and he did throw some great breaking balls. West Virginia just did a really good job with their approach after that. And I don't think there's cause for immense concern. Do I wish LSU's 2 guys would have pitched better over the weekend? Yes. Do I realize that 2 weeks ago, against inferior competition, mind you, but against Little Rock and Dallas Baptist, they threw 15 1/3 shutout? I mean, that's not that distant in the past. So that's still the backbone of LSU's team. And it's good that LSU was able, without those 2 guys just absolutely shoving, we're able to go win 2 games against a super regional team and a conference champion in West Virginia. The bullpen is kind of what I want to talk about after that, though, because Chase Shores yesterday looked like a difference maker. He looked like a difference maker. He didn't have any command in the regional on that Sunday. He came in against Little Rock. He walked 4 guys. He was awful. But he had command on Sunday night. And what you see when he throws strikes is 100 miles an hour. And West Virginia just simply was not prepared for that. They could not catch up. And then it was a little bit unfair that against Sauvie, with 1 out in the ninth, he dropped that hammer of a slider on him and froze him for strike 3. LSU is not going to be able to get through Omaha with Cade Anderson, Anthony Ianson, and Kason Evans throwing every pitch. They can't get through Omaha with those 3 guys throwing 95% of the pitches. You're going to have 3 or 4 guys step forward to get this done in Omaha. And one of them, unequivocally, must be Chase Shores. And what you saw from him last night, with a slider located for strike 3 on the outside corner, called strike 3. A fastball challenging folks over the plate at 100. That is difference-making stuff from Chase Shores. You'll hear me bring these names up for the next week and a half. Nate Ackenhausen, Javen Coleman. You're talking about guys who didn't have monster roles in the season that were then called on in the postseason and gave huge performances. Griffin Herring comes to mind. Will Helmers comes to mind. And Chase Shores is more talented than all those guys. And I dare say, not only does he need to step forward and be that guy in certain spots in Omaha, if he's not, LSU's probably coming home empty-handed. Because those outs, after Ianson and Anderson have given everything they've got, are incredibly vital, whether that's late in a close game or to start the next game in, say, a loser's bracket situation. Those outs are vital to keeping a season alive. And what we saw in the regional from Chase Shores gives you a ton of pause. But you can't go make a trade at the trade deadline. You got who you got. And Chase Shores is a guy that LSU's going to have to trust. And the guy that faced 4 hitters last night and struck 3 of them out can be a difference maker in LSU's chance to go win a national championship or come home. I thought that was just great to watch last night. Cooper Williams, to a lesser extent, same type deal. I don't think Cooper Williams is ready right now to get the last 3 outs of a 1-run game in Omaha. But what I like about Cooper Williams is that he throws strikes. And he came in the game, and LSU just needed strikes because they had a big lead. And he came in, boom, strike, boom, strike, boom, strike. I ran the numbers on this for my Around the Horn column on LouisianaSports.net. But 8 of his first 9 pitches were for strikes. And I believe something in the neighborhood of 10 of his first 13 pitches were for strikes. I'll have to go back and look at that. But he was just hammering the zone. And when you're left-handed and you throw 91 miles an hour, like, that's kind of all you need. And because he was so consistent in the zone, he was able to get that swinging strikeout on the slider that was way away because it was tunneling like it was going to be a fastball in the outside corner. Williams' stuff is not what Evans is. It's not what Schmidt's is. It's not what Anderson's is. It's not what Shore's is. But it's deceptive, and it can get outs. And it did in a big way. He set down 6 in a row in the game last night as LSU was adding to its lead and essentially locked the game down. So I'd have liked to see Zach Cowan pitch in the 9th last night. I tweeted that out. I'd like to see him in a low-leverage spot, trying to get some confidence. That didn't happen. Kaysen Evans didn't pitch this weekend. But the guys that you did throw out there did a really good job. It starts with Saturday when DJ Primo got the only guy he was brought in to get. Maverick Rizzi was great in his final inning of relief. Just 1 hit, struck out 1. And then Cooper Williams and Chase Shores last night combined to throw 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts between those two. Huge, huge stuff from Tiger bullpen arms that are not Zach Cowan, are not Kaysen Evans, but they're going to have to be big when LSU gets to Omaha this coming weekend. All right, let's keep things rolling with the baseball talk. We'll talk to Koki Riley coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. GenesisofBatonRouge.com is the website. Every car that's on the lot is online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com. Whether it's the sedan all the way up to the SUV, the entry level, all the way up to the highest end model. All of these Genesis vehicles come with IHA top safety pick dominations. And a couple of them were top safety picks plus. One of the safest cars on the road. That's what Genesis promises to you. It's part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. Go by and see them, Airline at Pico across from Women's Hospital. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. You can find them online at GenesisofBatonRouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday shows brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. Koki Riley usually with us on Wednesdays. Wednesday going to be a travel day for the Advocate crew, so he's good enough to give us a little bit of time here on this Monday before we head off to Omaha, Nebraska. Koki, how are you, sir?
Doing all right. How's it going?
It's going quite well. Did you really need that one last rain delay last night to really just kind of cement this season?
Honestly, I didn't. This entire season, I've been very patient with these weather delays. I've given people the benefit of the doubt. I've understood the difficulty of the circumstances. I wrote a 1,000-word story on it. And then when we got to rain delay, whatever it is now, I think it's like 19 games have been actually affected by the weather, but they haven't all been rain delays. Sometimes the one last straw breaks the camel's back, and the camel's back broke yesterday. I'll just say that.
Who felt the brunt of that? Was it Rabelais that had to hear you complaining about it?
No, I think it was everybody that had to hear me complain about it. It was. I was tired and it was a little, I don't know. It's just been a long season, but I guess that's a poetic way to end the season at the box this year. If this weather follows us to Nebraska, I don't know what I'm going to do. It would. It's not going to be pretty.
We'll see. All right. A bigger story for you this weekend that the Bats really erupted and scored a ton of runs, or that LSU's starting pitching was not as dominant as we had come accustomed to.
I think it's for me, I don't think we should overreact either. I think, yes, LSU's offense did a better job of taking at bats, but if you look at the circumstances around this weekend where it didn't seem like anyone pitched well, and I think the weather had a factor to do with it. And I think West Virginia's 2 starters were either tired or sick heading into the game. I think West Virginia's coach said that Kartsotis was dealing with an illness and he tried to give it a go last night, and he just wasn't himself. And you can kind of tell with just how bad his command was. And I mean, that combined with the West Virginia defense just continuing to shoot itself in the foot and opening up opportunities for a talented SEC team to capitalize on them. I think I don't know if like the offense is necessarily fixed, because of what happened this weekend when you combine, again, the weather, some of the circumstances around some individual starters with West Virginia, and the fact that, West Virginia's weakness is their bullpen depth and their defense. And we really saw that this weekend. So that's for the offensive side. Then on the pitching side, the weather also kind of applies to LSU's pitchers and their starters and getting hit around a little bit. And I did, both guys I thought started pretty strong and then sort of faltered as the game sort of went along. And I think the weather probably had some sort of factor to do with it, because like it was hard to find a pitcher who actually threw the ball well. And I know Chase Meyer threw 4 shutout innings for West Virginia, but he got pretty lucky. I felt like LSU ripped some balls that went right to West Virginia fielders. They were getting guys on base. I thought that the offensive process for LSU was actually much better. And I'm not going to say that there shouldn't be any concerns with the starters, or there should the offensive explosion for LSU was a total fluke. I'm not saying that, but I don't know if we should be drawing massive conclusions from 2 games on a very hot weekend at the box.
How much does Stephen Milam's offensive outburst help LSU?
I think it's massive. The fact that he's just seeing the ball well for the last 2 weekends now, it's absolutely huge for this team. Really changes the way you look at this lineup, changes the way you look at this team. And the guy just seems to be hitting everything hard now after having trouble hitting anything hard during all of SEC play. So if you look at the SEC numbers he had this year, it was stark how poor he was. 211 batting average, 295 on base percentage. Just not what you thought at all after he had a really good season last year, especially during the second half of SEC play. So him sort of turning things around, seeing the ball a lot better, just stinging balls. I think that would probably be a bigger takeaway for me than anything else I've seen over the last 2 weeks and from this past weekend.
What about Chase Shores last night?
7-run game, so you don't want to take too much from it. But I mean, if you're pumping 100 like that down the middle, it's going to be hard to hit. And I don't know if West Virginia was necessarily prepared for that. So again, he's a much different look than the guys that they had thrown so far in the regional. So it was very impressive. But we've seen this from Chase literally within a game in that Little Rock game where he can look great for a couple batters, and then it can get really, really dicey if 1 or 2 things go wrong. So let's see. I think let's wait and see what happens in Omaha. And I mean, they're going to have to use them. They're going to have to use Zach Callen, who didn't even pitch this weekend. They're going to have to use Casey Evans. It's all hands on board in Omaha, as you know. So I think that first game is just going to be absolutely crucial in terms of how they set up their pitching for this first weekend.
DJ Primo was the first left-hander out of the pen. He pitched in the game on Saturday. But do you think that given the first high-leverage left-handed situation in Omaha, Cooper Williams may get that call now?
Yeah, I think it will be. I know DJ Primo, as you said, was the first guy to come in on Saturday. But Primo to me is he's like a purely a lefty specialist. They rarely have him pitch against righties. But with Williams, I feel like they're just a little bit more comfortable with him pitching against guys on both sides of the plate. And with Primo, it's a deception thing where he hides the ball pretty well, and I can imagine it being pretty tough for left-handers to pick that up. For Williams, it's less about deception, and it's more about the fact that he's got multiple different pitches they can throw on both sides of the plate, and when he's locating it, it's kind of similar-ish to Cade Anderson when he's really rolling. Not saying he's Cade Anderson. Very few pitchers are, That's sort of the effect that you're putting onto hitters, I guess, when he's really on. And I think you saw that last night, especially in that massive sixth inning where he comes in there and puts up a 0 after Anthony Eisen hits the leadoff batter. Like, that was absolutely crucial in that game. And he was just he had pinpoint control and command, and that was very, very impressive to watch.
Yeah, he was throwing nothing but strikes. It was awesome to see. How good a shot do you think LSU has to win this whole thing?
If they win this first game, I think they're the favorite. If they don't win this first game, I have a lot of trouble seeing them winning 4 games in a row in 5 days. But again, like I know that sounds dramatic, but Arkansas is the probably most talented team in this tournament. And I think Jay even said that last night. So if you can win that first game, put Arkansas into a bit of a hole, put yourself on the front foot pitching wise, and you're probably gonna have to beat them. You're gonna have to beat them again, but you're gonna have 2 shots to beat them again. So that might make or break the tournament. I know it's so early, but that's just the way this bracket is sort of filled out, where the top 2 seeds in the tournament are going to be facing each other in the first round. But I don't want to like totally poo-poo like Duke or Duke, assuming if they win tonight, or any of the teams they could potentially face the final. But I really do feel like this LSU Arkansas game on what's probably going to be Saturday is going to be just absolutely like monstrous. Like, that is a monster game. That's Zach Root versus Kate Anderson in all likelihood, and it's going to be huge. It's going to be absolutely huge. And I think if the wind's blowing in, that's probably advantage LSU, given some Kate Anderson struggles with home runs, and if the wind's blowing in, that's going to stop any home run from getting out of the park. And Anderson already looked pretty good in his last start against Arkansas, and Arkansas has more swing and miss than West Virginia had, so he's probably going to have more success getting those strikeouts. So, the pitching always improves in Omaha. It's how the park works. It's what happens in these big moments over there, and I think that's advantage. That is probably slight advantage LSU just in terms of the style of the way this game's going to be played, but Arkansas probably has more talent, so it's going to be a huge game.
I was doing post game last night when y'all. I believe you probably went down on the field. I didn't see you post game in the press conference. Did anything of note, kind of on the field, chatting with guys and sense of the emotions of what had happened?
Not a ton of stuff, honestly. But Casey Evans did talk about like warming up his body a little bit to potentially come into the game. But it sounded like, at least from him, that it never got close, even if he was ready to pitch if they needed him to. So, that's kind of what that was. But there wasn't a whole ton after that, just a lot of excitement. And there's like, I feel like with this team, it's more, there is like a slightly different vibe than 2 years ago where, like getting to Omaha, there's obviously the elation of getting to Omaha, but there's also kind of this feeling of like, the job's not done yet. Like, we're one of the favorites to definitely win this thing. And for this team, they're younger, they're hungry, obviously, but I don't know, there's just it's hard to describe what it is, honestly. But there was a slightly different vibe with this year's team after they clinched their spot in Omaha. And, if they do lose to Arkansas and they don't win this whole entire thing, I think this season is still a success. If you get to Omaha, the season is a success. To me, that's how we should view this program. If they don't get to Omaha, it's hard to view it as anything, it's hard to view it as a success. So, I feel like they definitely accomplished that last night, and they definitely got a good draw to get there, and they didn't get a very good draw in the first game in Omaha, but that's just how these things sort of work, and it's just going to be really, really interesting to see how that first game shakes out.
Looking forward to getting up there. We'll see you in Omaha this weekend, Koki. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hon.
Koki Riley, beat reporter for The Advocate, covering the LSU baseball team, done an awesome job all season long. One last Alec Box rain delay for Koki and everyone that was in the press box last night, and LSU got it done, so they head to Omaha. Koki will head up there on Wednesday. I'm leaving on Thursday. I'll be broadcasting from the Ameristar on Friday. All right, when we come back, we'll close out hour number 1 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com, GCOPnet.com. This is a fairly worthless segment here in terms of like the actual hard-hitting content, because it's just a feeling. It's not necessarily anything concrete. Beck, I'll get your thoughts on this, but I was getting text messages during the Little Rock game on Monday that were really, really sour on the entire LSU baseball program. And at this point, now you fast forward 7 days, Monday to Monday. Like, you can't really find a dissenting opinion on LSU baseball as a program. Now Jay Johnson's been to Omaha 2 of his 4 years. Kind of give him a pass on the first one, taking over a complete transition roster with really no pitching. So you're looking at a team that's made Omaha 2 of the last 3 years and could potentially make a push. And this time last week, you could have said, well, if they lose tonight, he's only been to 1 super regional in 4 years. And it's funny how the entire prism of a program, this is just talking points. This has nothing to do with what's actually going on over there, which, by the way, I think is awesome. And I think it's one of the best programs in college baseball, if not the best program in college baseball. And I implicitly trust Jay Johnson to handle the program. I think he's going to do amazing things here. But just for average Joe talking point, like the difference 7 days can make in the perception of the program is a little bit wild.
Yeah, it's just, I talked about this before, but this is just what you go through with college baseball. And when you get to the tournament, this is what it is. You boil the season down to 5 or 6 games, and
really 5 or 6 innings at some point of a 65-game sample size.
Yes, and so when you lose to Arkansas Little Rock and you're 1 game away from losing a regional,
5-1,
and you're down 5-1 in the game you have to win, you're going to start thinking to yourself, how is LSU in this position? This is a horrible situation. LSU's about to get bounced in the regional by Arkansas Little Rock. Jay Johnson, it just, he had,
I gotta fire the coach text.
Yeah.
At 5-1. I gotta fire the coach text.
So yeah, it's just an insane way to do this this college baseball. Just having it go like this, you're gonna have such giant swings of emotions and just feelings about the team. And so now after this weekend, and you're not gonna find somebody out there with the same thoughts.
We'll see, because statistically speaking, LSU's not going to win the College World Series. They certainly could. I would never rule that out. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the country, and they're already there. But like statistically speaking, they'll lose 2 games up there. And I'm curious what the reaction to that will be if we get there. I guess it depends on how that goes.
Yeah.
But man, if they don't lose 2 games while they're up there, then we're really having a different conversation. We're talking about what could be in the future. My contention will be, I'm not going to judge the program as in terms of its health based on what happens over the course of like 4 days in Omaha. Whether they go and win it and sweep it or they go 2 and out. I'll still feel like you've got a guy who is consistently putting together rosters that improve over time and have played really good baseball in the postseason. I thought LSU played well in Hattiesburg his first year, just ran out of guys. I thought LSU obviously played great in 23, but I thought they played well in Chapel Hill last year, and Gage Jump needed to get 3 outs to get him out of there, and they just didn't quite get there. They found a couple holes. But like I just feel like LSU's program is incredibly healthy. I feel like LSU's program is in a position that's as strong as anybody in the country. I would put them. It's probably LSU, Tennessee, Arkansas. I mean, you probably throw Florida in there. that's probably the short list. After that, like, everybody else is kind of a step down. And that's sometimes you need to remove the emotion of the game that just ended and kind of step back. So before we get to all the drama that goes on in Omaha, to just sit back and go, look, no matter what happens while they're up there, like, this is a really good situation that LSU's in right now. You're going to have to replace a lot of guys off this team, but we'll cross that bridge when this season ends. Right now, it's about going to chase a title. And LSU's trying to win number 8, and Arkansas is trying to win number 1. And the winner of the game on Saturday is going to be feeling like it is that time, because it's just human nature to look at the success and the talent level that LSU and Arkansas have had and have, and then look across there and go, Murray State, Duke. We'll see. Those two teams will play later on this evening. Monday show is brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. We'll come back after Sports Center, talk some more baseball. Also got some football that we'll get into as well. Stay with us. Monday edition, Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Whenever I talk to David, the thing he always mentions and what they do most often over at One Bath and Closets are tub to shower conversions. If you've got a tub that you just don't use, you don't take a bath, you don't have the 2 kiddos like I do at the house, I've got to take a bath every night at 6 o'clock, well, take the bathtub out. Put in an awesome walk-in shower. It changes the functionality of your bathroom, changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, add a little value to your home. You spend a lot of time in that bathroom. Make it a nice place to hang out. Tub to shower conversions. They're time efficient, they're cost effective, and they can transform your bathroom. Check out the pictures of their great work at onebathandclosets.com and request that free consultation with David and his team. That part doesn't cost you a cent. They're online at onebathandclosets.com. It's David Duvall and One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com.